Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here, or Tank12, however you want to call me, I don't really care. And today we are taking a look at the Tier 6 Polish tank, the very first Polish tank in World of Tanks, the Pudel. And the very first thing you'll notice is that this tank is actually a Panther. And this is not the first time Wargaming have actually reskinned the Panther. If we go back over to the German line, there is a Panther that was reskinned into a Panther M10, and this was actually historically accurate. Like as with the Pudel, both are historically accurate. This vehicle, at least the Germans, like they equipped some armor to make it look like a M10, a Wolverine, the tank destroyer, the American tank destroyer, and they were quite successful. They actually had one raid where they ambushed quite a few American vehicles with such Panther M10s, and well, historically wise, they are completely accurate. So what does the Pudel bring that the Panther M10 doesn't? Well, first of all, it is a Polish tank, and this was a tank that the Polish resistance fighters actually captured during the siege of Warsaw. That was in 1944. Before the Soviets actually arrived in Warsaw, the Polish resistance led an uprising against the German captors. Now, unfortunately, this uprising was smashed, was completely obliterated by the German army, the overmight of their Wehrmacht, because the Soviets did not intervene. That is also a very dark chapter in Polish history, starting at the separation or the splitting of Poland into Germany and the Soviet Union. But that is a lot of history that has happened and has led to quite a few instances where Polish people are very, very upset towards Russian people still today. Like, it's very it's a very difficult topic to discuss. Let's put it like that. So this is actually a tank that the Polish resistance fighters captured during the siege of Warsaw, and this was the only tank or the only Panther that was actually ever taken over by the Polish resistance fighters. And you can see, if we take a look at the details, this is a very nice looking tank. It does have this little Piat on top, like the British anti-tank launcher. Then you have a nice Sten gun in the back, a British machine gun. Then you have, I think, I'm not sure what you call it in English, but it's like to raise the vehicle, to change the tracks. And then you have those insignias, you know, the Polish insignias for the armored forces of the Polish army. Since they actually did have, I mean, Poland was overrun fairly quickly by the Nazis during World War II. And obviously, they were completely outmatched by the Wehrmacht, but still, they had a very strong sense of national pride, and they fought for as best as they could. A lot of Polish soldiers and civilians actually fled to England or other places and continued to fight on against the Nazis. And they were even forming some kind of battalions, like Polish battalions, to free their homeland. Now, obviously, the Soviets were faster than them, and Poland turned into a Soviet satellite state 1945. So yeah, that was a little history lesson. I think it's always nice to have a little bit of background information. I think I don't really always like get into the background information. I kind of like to talk about the tank. And yeah, maybe a bit too much information right there. So first of all, the tank looks very, very nice. It's a very nice model. I think no other Panther looks like this. And if we compare it to the original Panther model, the Tier 7 version, we can actually do that real fast. Compare it to the Panther Tier 7 of the German Tech tree. Just a little bit like too many vehicles right now. Let's compare it right here. We're gonna take a look at the stock version, and you can see it looks like very, very similar to the stock version. You also have the exact same armament, you have the exact same turret, and the hull are identical to these vehicles. It's just painted in a brownish color, and I think the riffles here that you have add a nice little touch to this vehicle. So what do we get at tier 6? Well, at tier 6, first of all, regarding firepower, you're getting the 75mm KWK 42 cannon L70. Well, rate of fire 14.3 rounds, average penetration of 150 with AP rounds, 194 with APCR, and 38 with high explosive. The average damage is 150, and the turret traverse speed on this vehicle is 32.71 degrees per second. So actually a fairly competitive gun at tier 6. Even at tier 7 you're able to do quite a lot of damage with this gun. This is a very good gun. It's a gun that I think quite a few vehicles use. Like, I mean, obviously this one is just for the Pudel, but if we look at the gun that the Panther uses, like, it's identical. Like, the stock version is identical. It also uses it on quite a few other German tanks. Back in the days, it was even on the Panther 4, but that was kind of a different time. Different time, definitely. So the gun depression, 8 degrees is very, very competitive. At tier 6, you'll be able to crest some ridge lines very, very nicely. 18 degrees of gun elevation, not too bad. Aim time of 2.11 seconds. Now, obviously, there's some better tanks with better aim time, but I mean, you will be able to do just fine with this tank because it has a really good dispersion rate of 0.32. It's very, very accurate. It gives you like a DPM of 2,336, fairly nice, and it's fairly competitive. Let's put it like that. This gun is fairly competitive at tier 6 and tier 7. At tier 8, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. You might be shooting a bit more APCR. That is why I have loaded quite a few APCR rounds in this vehicle. But even 194mm of penetration might not be enough for certain tier 8 opponents. Keep that in mind. Survivability wise, this tank is nothing that is too impressive. 85mm on the front, 50 on the side, 40 on the rear. Now, the angle is fairly nice, but you know, the tier 6, tier 7 tanks will easily go through you. Tier 8, no problem, so be careful. Your hit points, 840, not meant to be traded that quickly, so keep that in mind. 100mm on top, like the front part of the turret, very, very big gun mantlet. And it's actually quite flat, so you might bounce occasional shots, but still, big weak spot on the top. Like if they actually get your cupola on top, it's pretty much game over. 45 on the side, 45 on the rear. This tank is not very heavily armored, and it's not meant to be, because the one strength that this vehicle does have is the mobility. 700 horsepower engine, which allows it to go 55 kilometers forward and 20 kilometers backwards, with a decent traverse speed of 34.4. Now, obviously, with better traverse speed, this tank would be very, very mobile. And how it stands right now, it's quite mobile, and it does fit. It does sport a gun that is fairly decent at this tier and tier 7. It is, in my opinion, a fairly nice medium to good premium tank, in my opinion. So concealment wise, obviously we do get to increase that with certain skills, and spotting wise, this tank actually has some fairly decent spotting range. 386 meters view range is fairly good. Now you can get that up to higher, even with like other skills. You can get that to over 400, I think, and that is fairly nice at tier 6. Like, just imagine tier 6 vehicle that can spot quite a few tanks. Now, spotting might be a little bit difficult because this tank is not very well hidden. It is quite large, big profile. It is a Panther, keep that in mind. But it does have the mobility. So let's see what this tank can actually do in live combat. Looking at today is not going to be the game that I wanted to choose because the other game was not representative of what this tank could do at this tier. Well, actually, it is quite representative of what this tank is capable of, but it was just a little bit too extreme because it was against against tier 8 tanks, and we finished with damage on top, like 3,000 damage in that game. Maybe I'll upload it once, I don't know, somewhere in the near future. But today we're going to take a look at a game that we had against other tier 6, tier 5, and tier 4 opponents on the map Airfield. And you'll just see what kind of tank this is at this tier, and why so many people enjoy playing it. Now obviously the lower tiers of World of Tanks does consist of quite a few new players. That is why I kind of try to not play those tiers, because it's kind of unfair for those new players to be facing very experienced players, and like players like me. I've played a few games, I've played quite a few games in my time in World of Tanks, and it's just not a lot of fun for these guys to be playing against me when I do kind of know all the strengths and the weaknesses of pretty much all the tanks. So yeah, I don't like to play the lower tiers. I like to stick around at least tier 7 or tier 8, because like lower than that, it's sometimes just not very fair. It's kind of seal clubbing, and I don't want to do that anymore. I used to do that like way back in the days. But yeah, sometimes you get these kind of matchups in your tanks, and as you can see right here, this vehicle at this tier is kind of a Panther 2. It's an extremely powerful version of a Panther that kind of is just able to dominate quite a lot of other tanks with its rate of fire, with its pen of 150mm. Like, the only tank that you're going to be running into a wall in is the AT2 in this matchup. Other than that, you will have like so many players that just can't really do a lot against you, and you can totally see that. Like, there's the M3 Lee, he's firing high explosive. This is probably a very new player, and I mean yeah, he doesn't really stand a chance against me. And this is also where you can see that the view range comes into play of this tank. Like tier 6 with 400 meters of view range, that is so overpowered at this tier. Most of these players have like, I don't know, about 300 meters view range, and I have like 400 meters view range on this tank, so they can't really stay hidden, and they, like, some of them probably don't really grasp that the mechanics of camo yet. So it's kind of an unfair environment for a lot of these people. And you can see we just kind of streamrolled through the middle, because I didn't really expect to be meeting a lot of resistance. And in the end, I didn't really meet a lot of resistance. I only lost about a little bit more than 100 HP against that one AC4 experimental that decided to suicide against us. So yeah, that is kind of difficult to say, but if you're playing with this tank at tier 6, tier 4, and tier 5, you're going to have a very, very capable machine on your hand to do quite a lot of damage. And you can see the only tank that we really had a problem with penetrating is the AT2. That thing has ridiculous strong armor. Even tier 7 vehicles have problems penetrating that tier 5. But yeah, that is why you sometimes have loaded a little bit of the APCR. And now, a reason why I've loaded so much APCR is not because I'm one of those money players, like, you know, spending a lot of a load of credits against these tier 5 and tier 6 and tier 4 opponents. It's because when you're facing tier 8 vehicles, you're going to have a bad time with 150mm of pen most of the time. I can show you guys, I will upload, I'm not sure when I'm gonna do it, but somewhere in the future I'll upload that one game that I had in this tank where I actually managed to do 3,000 damage against like tier 8 vehicles, and you can just see what thing this tank is actually capable of. It's a fairly strong vehicle. I do enjoy playing it because I love my Panther. I always have loved my Panthers. And I thought it was perfect time to pick up like the first Polish tank as well. So if this tank is coming out on the premium on the advent calendar somewhere along the lines, if you enjoy Panther gameplay, if you enjoy those faster medium tanks that maybe don't have the best traverse speed, that have a very good gun at tier 6 and tier 7, but maybe not too competitive at tier 8, this could be the tank for you. In this match, like monetary wise, I managed to do 60,000 credits. We didn't lose that much HP, and we got away with about, I think, 58,000 credits in the end. But that's with premium, keep that in mind. So it's not a bad moneymaker as either. So yeah, what is my final verdict to this tank? Well, it's kind of difficult to say. I do want to support this Pudel. I love the Pudel. I've been playing it up and down, and I just got, after this game, I have gotten the first gun mark. It's the coolest mark of excellence I've ever seen. It's like 2 cannon barrels forming an X on the barrel, and that looks really cool. But at the same time, a tier 6 version, that probably costs quite a lot of money. I'm not sure how much I paid back in the days. Should you just get a tier 8? Well, if you want to go for credits, going for a tier 8 is much more cost efficient than going for this tier 6 version. But at the same time, if this tank comes out in an advent calendar and you want to, get ready for the Polish tanks, and you want to, play a little Panther in the lower tiers, this is a perfect vehicle for you. Now, okay, to finish this video off, I've been making a lot of premium vehicle kind of content, and I want to put a little halt to that at least. I know I will make some videos on certain premium tanks that are coming out on the advent calendar. I didn't do one on the M46 Pet in Korea because I have played a lot of that tank, but I still haven't made a what to expect. Should have been, actually was a perfect opportunity to make that one, but I kind of missed it out. But that's not really too bad, I guess, because that thing goes on sale all the time. I'm just gonna make it like someday, some other day. And yeah, I'm gonna cover some of these tanks that are coming out, especially the new premium tanks I'll probably cover, but other than that, I'll see to it, because I want I don't want this channel to be just pure premium, because that is not what I want World of Tanks to be going for. I want this channel to showcase different kind of tanks, gameplays that I had, like great games, or even some controversies that like I've always made controversial videos, about the state of World of Tanks, about the state of premium tanks in this game, and I think I'll be putting a big notion on the state of current premium tanks, because I think I want to cover that as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this what to expect. If you did, comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.